This is my 1926 Underwood number 5. I've had this machine for about 4 years, since it's 2 days until we go into 2015. However, I never got around to making a video of it. I did a typing session video about 2 years ago, but never a detailed description of this. So I think it was about time. I put it on a spin wheel. My Oliver number 9 is usually sitting on this, but for the sake of the movie I put the Underwood on here. Yeah, so let's get started. I bought it for $15 in 2010, I think, or 2011. I'm not too sure. When I got it, it was very filthy, ridiculously filthy actually. It had grime in it. It was brown. It took about a week to get it totally clean. The last time I cleaned this machine was about a year ago, so it has a little bit of dust, but nothing too bad. If you turn the night shot on, you can maybe slightly make out, yeah, for instance, over there, there's a bit of dust. I'll get around cleaning that eventually, but it looks good enough for me to do a video on it, so yeah. I'll show you a few of the specs, I'll show you a few of the mechanics and a bit of the flaws. I mean, in 2 years' time this machine will be 90 years old, so can't complain really. When I got the machine, the bell wasn't working, so I spent some time with that, and as you can hear, it's very loud and still fairly clear. Okay, let me just close my viewer. Yeah, this is the rod for the ribbon, or the ribbon advanced system is built out of, well, maybe I have to open my viewer, I'm sorry. As you can see, there's some spring system in there, and yeah. How do you describe it? It has these wheels with teeth in there, so it has like a ratchet system where you push it in and pull it out in order to change the direction of which way the ribbon is turning. The ribbon's turned this way. As you can see, it still has both paper clips, paper support clips really. The only thing is, for some reason, they're both out of adjustment, and they don't seem to touch the paper. This one seems to have been replaced, as this one is different material, as you can tell. But when I turn the plate in or have paper in it, the spool or the rollers won't touch the paper. The plating is still in surprisingly good shape. I think it's the original one, although I'm not too sure. But why that's the case, I don't know. I haven't replaced them, maybe somebody else did, and they come from an older or newer model. It's kind of hard to tell at this point. They look exactly the same as the ones on my other number 5s, and my number 3s for that matter. So maybe I'll eventually bend them a little bit and make them work better, but for now it's not a bother. It uses the regular universal twin spools, as you can see. These are the plastic ones that you get from Staples. It has the simpler paper support clip. As you can see, this doesn't have the wheel end here. It has the regular spring-loaded piece of metal, really. If you go to the older models, for instance, to my Underwood 5 from 1909, by the way, it has a wheel that should turn on this model, but it doesn't, because this machine has been repainted and they forgot to take it apart. Turn the light shot off, I'm sorry. But that's a tiny wheel that should turn, and you can see it's also spring loaded, so it's a bit more advanced system. However, this still has a simpler way of supporting the paper, which is not really I don't really have a preference for it. I like the wheel better, but it's fine, whatever. This tends to leave an indentation in the paper, which I dislike. but I don't have a spare one. So unless I do, this is the one that stays on here. Those two wheels that we have here on the front are the guiders for the shift mechanism, which on the older Underwoods is still basket shift. Surprisingly still relatively light. They're still guided, as you can tell. Going to the ribbon vibrator over here. This is the machine where it still rises when you press the space bar. This is the action, if you can, the camera will let, there we go. So you press a key and you press the space bar and the action is exactly the same. Here's the color selector. The red hasn't faded. Usually when you buy an Underwood number 3, 4, 5 or whatever, and it still has this color selector, the red tends to be faded, or both colors. So I think these have been replaced at some point. Let's just speed things up a bit. This is the margins, again also for the bell. This is the left one, this is the right one. It has tab sets. I have 5 on this machine. And the ruler, which you have to look at this way. Here are the tab sets. This one is missing the clip, unlike this, as you can tell. That's the way I got it. The carriage drum, the tension drum in the back here, it has the more modern version for winding it up, for winding up the tension in the spring. It should have a screw here for protective purposes, so it doesn't unwind, but it doesn't really do that much. It's just when you touch, you have to be careful. It doesn't really matter. The older version used a ratchet system. This is more of a click bearing system, so I'm not too sure of what I prefer. I think the older version actually, but it doesn't really matter to me. Over here we have the patent dates. The 1909 patent was the first, and the 1915 patent was the last, according to this. You can tell 1926, and I looked up the serial number, and that's indeed where the year that it was manufactured. The serial number is located on the right side over here, or turn it around and you can look at it better. 220910 and then 5. So yeah, this is the, for those that don't know, the paper release. If you look at movies and old films, and possibly if you use a machine and you see people pull up the paper like this and you hear the ratchet noise like this, just for your information, that's actually very bad for your machine. They do tend to do that in the movies. It tends to wear out your ratchet system, which is installed in over here. You can maybe, yeah, you can slightly make it out behind the carriage knob, if I can let my camera find it. Where is it? There we go. You can see the teeth. Those tend to wear out very badly if you keep doing that. What I do is I just push this down, then pull my paper out. Just simply saves your machine from excessive wear and tear, and it doesn't really matter. Here's the carriage return lever. It does 1, 2, and 3 spaces. So 1, 2, and 3 spaces. It has the two-way ratchet disengage system. This works as followed. Some people asked, why does the Underwood 5 have 2 disengage system? Now, there's a reason for that. For instance, if you were to fill out a form and it had a pattern system, so the bars that you were to fill out were exactly the same space apart, and you have to set it the way the carriage return lever would make perfect sentences in that. I'm trying to find the correct words here. If you were to have a form, you know, followed the lines, you were to use this one, because this disengages the ratchet so you can line it up perfectly. However, this stuff does still have the carriage return lever engaged on the platen. As you can see, put it to 3 to make it more clear. Now, if you were to do something else, I couldn't tell you an example, you would flick this back, pull this out. It does relatively the same thing, the only thing is it doesn't engage the platen, because you can still hear a ratchet, but it doesn't do anything on the platen. Were to flick it to 3 to give you the exact same, it doesn't do anything. So that's the difference between that one and that one. It's just it's a decision whether you want to use the carriage return lever or not. These tend to wear out very fast on old Underwoods because of the mechanism. This one is worn out, and if you return the carriage about 15 times, eventually it will just pop out and you tend to make a mistake. So I usually, when I use this machine, I tie it down or something like that. It has the carriage return or carriage release switch over here. There should be 2, I think. Yeah, there's another one here. The decal on this is magnificent, by the way. There's only one minor mark over there. It's in very good shape, as you can see. And here's the Underwood logo. Very good shape. The paper guide. You can see the camera and the reflection. You can see some slight putting. This could be rust. I think it's rust. Yeah, it's some slight rust. If I was to really chrome it, that would go away. I still have to put it in vinegar. It's not excessive, and it's still very... the reflection is still very strong, so I'm not too worried about it. It's on more locations. I don't know what happened here. I think somebody grabbed sandpaper and went over this in order to make it shine, and this is what did it. It's very dull on this side. On this side it's not. It's just, well, again, slightly rusty. That's been here and took off the chrome. Yeah, I'm just trying. Here's the tabulator key and the shift lock, only on one side. On Underwoods it's on the wrong side, by the way. Usually you have, on typewriters you have it on this side. For instance, on that one you have it on the left side. And if I was to go to the Remington 12, by the way, it's on the left side. But you go to Underwood, it's on the right side. So that's rather interesting. And if you're used to one machine and you start using the other one, you tend to get confused fairly quickly. It has the newer version paper guide plate here on the front, as you can see. Usually there were 2 separate ones that you could flick forward. This is one big solid piece. This is the escapement system over here, which works fine. When I got it, it wasn't adjusted properly, so I made the necessary adjustments by turning that screw up to a certain level and doing the same with that, so it functioned properly. I think that is about it. There are a few minor things with this typewriter that, you know, are relatively unnecessary, I have to say. Oh, I forgot to tell you, this is the right margin release, the left margin release. This is the right margin release. Underwood had 2 separate ones. The main problem with this is that the hammer stop, or the system that prevents you from continuing typing at the end of a sentence, doesn't work. It's over there. I moved it back because it has become, I think, bent out of shape or something. Let me just take the typewriter off the daisy wheel and I'll show you. Right, now as you can see, there is a let me just see if I can put this down in any way without the carriage slamming over. Okay. I just don't want any damage. We'll put it on its back gently. Now you can see this part here is actually a spring, but it's been snapped. It's snapped off. It should actually go on this bar. I had to disengage it. As you can see, it's very loose. I can take it out if I have to. This was the system that would prevent the keys from continuing when you were typing. Unfortunately, it no longer works. It was broken when I got it. I tried fixing it, but it was beyond repair. Like the spring snapped, and also something else moved out of adjustment, which I have no tools to repair that. It isn't a very big problem, because the only thing it does is actually it just passes the left margin about 4 spaces, and then it still jams the keys. As you can see, it still won't touch the platen, so it isn't the left margin isn't really accurate anymore. That's the only thing, which is because of that. Minor things, for instance, a tiny bit of rust over on the paper, support clips and some putting on there, and a chip over here in the United Typewriter Company decal, and there's a crack in the frame underneath this tape, as you can slightly make out. It's gone straight through, but it's still very strong, so I'm not bothered by it. It was the way like that when I got it, and they had actually taped up when I got it. It doesn't affect the functionality of the typewriter at all, although I suspect this has something to do with the broken mechanism inside. It doesn't affect anything else. Thankfully, the key action on this machine is incredibly smooth. It reminds me a bit of that 1940s Underwood typewriter that I sold about a month ago now. There is still an old video from January 2012 on this YouTube channel. I sold it about after 4 years of owning it, about a month ago. This really reminds me of that key action. It's very, very comfortable. Yeah. I think I'm going to cut an end to my video. It's 17 minutes now, and I think I've talked about all that I need to talk about this machine. I hope it wasn't stretched out for you too far, and I explained some things that might be confusing to you. If you have any questions, just drop me a comment and I will be happy to answer them.